especially monetarily in a society that's so built around capital, it's difficult to discuss with that individual that there's any sort of benefactor there, especially when they're not going to be likely to have social service access in a rural county. They're not going to have likely to very many governmental assistances, and it's going to be stigmatized. So there's a lot of issues, I think, within these individuals that we could debate back and forth, but I would argue that within being a rural, white, dirt poor individual is very difficult, and that you have no access to social services, not only because there's not a lot of social services in your county, but B, because it's highly stigmatized within that community, I think.
Well, right, but also I'm so confused that you're decrying the fact that they don't have access to social services when what party is getting rid of all that access?
I think that the parties are delineating on the difference between what's a good use of social service money and what's a bad one. I think that's the important thing to weigh out, is what is the most productive use of our resources overall, and I don't think either party has a great answer.
Joan,
I mean,
when we look at our current our current events as it goes on today,
Yeah.
bombshell news stories are hitting every day. As a result, crazy important issues and crazy scandals hit the headlines for one day instead of a week, instead of a month, instead of a year.
Yeah.
If you can highlight an issue
Yeah.
or a scandal or something that we have slept on or we haven't spent enough time talking about in your estimation, what would it be?
Yeah, you're right. Every day we don't know, right? You know, we had talked a little bit earlier about just some of the current events, and this is not the thing that I wake up from sleeping and think about, but I'm reminded something that I think I've had short attention span theater on, and maybe the rest of the country has, are areas in this country, to include Puerto Rico, post natural disaster. I mean, the south of Texas, et cetera, Florida. I feel kind of like maybe I'm as guilty as the rest, that we watched it and it's off the news cycle, and every now and then I kind of hope they're okay.
I don't know if you are guilty. I can't tell you how many times I read on a website, while you weren't paying attention, this happened. I've been paying attention, you haven't been reporting on it.
Sure.
I've been paying attention, you've just followed the next shiny bouncy ball that went around, and I didn't read about it until you re-reported on it.
Yeah.
But Puerto Rico is a fascinating. Is there not a clear argument, if you're a Puerto Rican, that Puerto Rico should be a state than the Puerto Rico hurricane? What does the president? I mean, his response could be stronger, but politically, what does the president care if Puerto Rico hates his guts? They ain't voting on him.
I mean,
Right.
really.
Well, and most Americans, if you ask them, don't even know that Puerto Rico's
right.
that Puerto Ricans are actually American citizens.
Yeah.
Right, and I believe per capita have more people who serve in the military than
Yes.
any other.
Disproportionate.
Yeah.
They're
Most of our
rights of citizens and the
Oh, yeah.
service of citizens, but they don't have any access to protection.
most of our consular area. I mean, so like when you look at American Samoa, things like that, they are. I will say that they serve at a higher level than I think they understand what it means to be an American and treasure it more than we do here sometimes. And I think it's
possible.
because they fight and die for it. And we treat them as if they are another.
Mm-hmm.
We have otherized basically all of our consular and territorial areas.
So that's
Dan?
where I think we've been asleep at the wheel.
Dan, are we? Can we look too far into the future? Can we be irresponsible for a minute? Look at
Okay.
2020.
Okay.
2020 crystal ball odds. We get a second Trump term.
Duh.
Last question.
There's
Odds.
professors in the room.
Okay. Knowing what I know about history and all of that, I'm gonna say 75%.
75% second Trump term. Evan?
I'm 75%.
Ooh, you went 75, so I can't match him. I'd go.
Sure you can.
I'd go 75% then. I'd say that's about the same. I'd say it's pretty high
It
likelihood.
should be noted that Dan also said we wouldn't have the filibuster today, right? Last time we had a powwow. So did Dr. Dudash. Dr. Dudash said that. They
Yeah.
weren't going to have the filibuster.
I did say
And yet we still do.
And we
Yeah.
75%, Joan? Second Trump term.
Yeah, I think the odds are good. I don't know if I'd go as high as 75%, but the odds are good.
Kristen?
Oh, I'm maybe gonna, well, from my point of view, be more optimistic and say 40. I'm not positive he's really gonna run again.
There's that.
I'd probably, just me personally, I would probably put it about 55%. I just don't know what you do if you're the Democratic Party. You know, if you want to fight fire with fire, Biden's a pretty good looking option. You got a really old guy who runs off his mouth without thinking and has an ability to create a scandal every new day with his mouth. Also not afraid to take brash rhetoric. People really like listening to him, just like our current president. I think, you know, maybe some counter programming is in store. Maybe somebody, instead of brash and loud, you get somebody like Kamala Harris, if you're a Democrat, junior senator from New York, Kristen Gillibrand. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was one last question online that I was thinking maybe you guys could answer to close things out.
Let's do it.
Why are you all so optimistic about Trump's chances in 3 years?
Dan?
Okay, there's several things.
Yeah,
If you
there
look,
are.
yeah, a few things. If you look back, optimistic isn't exactly the word I would use, but
You're bullish.
I'm bullish.
You're bullish.
Basically, if you look back, presidents do tend to end up with a second term more often than not.
Sure.
So just historical inertia. Also, the fact that he is probably going to lose. His party is most likely going to lose control of one of the houses, which is going to then give him a convenient foil, which will then improve his standing with the base, with his base, and with people who are loosely aligned on that side.
And the economy.
And the economy is doing well. He's, you know, I mean, if you had asked me, you know, normally I would say because his public opinion poll numbers are in the tank, you know, 41%, unless you're Rasmussen, and then you're 10 points higher than everyone else. But, you know, those things should normally kill a normal politician, but for whatever reason, political gravity has not been in effect for the last year, as the way it normally would. But I think certain things, political gravity still applies, and this is one where
Great answer.
Thank you to MSU. Thank you to Be Civil, Be Heard, and Dr. Dudash. Thank you to Kristen, Joan, Evan, Dan. Thank you to you guys. Round of applause, everybody in the room. Thank you so much.